Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU basketball coaches. We are a day late this week because of our winter storm, but we do appreciate everybody coming back to O'Neill's this afternoon to enjoy some talk about JMU college basketball. And the JMU women's basketball Dukes continue to roll. They've now won 8 in a row, remain atop the CAA standings at 8-0, 17-2 overall now after winning a couple of games last week. One at home against William and Mary, 92-40. That was on Thursday, and then Sunday at the College of Charleston. As last year, their only loss came at the College of Charleston there at TD Arena, but this year it's a 73-53 win, that is, for the Dukes. Coach Brooks, how was the week for you and JMU women's basketball?
Very, very good week. I thought we improved a lot, which is obviously our goal. We came out, with a different focus, starting with William and Mary. William and Mary is always a tough opponent. William and Mary, I've always said, they're a win or two away from gaining confidence, and they have a talented group of players. And they were coming off a very good win against the University of Delaware on the road, and we knew it was going to be a tough task. I thought our kids came out, and we've talked about getting our kids hitting on all cylinders at the same time. And Thursday night was that game. We came out and, we had so many people who contributed in a major way. Starting with Muff Mickens, who, I think had 11 assists and 1 turnover in that ball game, and really set the tempo. We got everything going. Precious Hall shot the ball extremely well. Lady Okafor, came out and has been dominant, for the last 8 or 9 games, which is very positive for us. But we also got some good bench play. I think Ashley Perez came off the bench and scored 16 points. Jasmine Guathme hit a couple threes. I think she had double figures. So it's just an all-around great effort. I was very, very proud of the kids. They're starting to understand their roles, and they're coming out and they're playing good team ball. And I think in that game in particular, we had 32 field goals, and I think we had 23 assists. So they're sharing the basketball, they're taking up for each other, and it was a fantastic game. I thought we had a great flow, and all that kind of led to this weekend. Going down to Charleston. It was a very long trip. We broke it up. We started on Friday night. We broke it up. We got down there, and I didn't really have to say a whole lot. They remembered the bad taste in their mouth from that trip. It's the only loss we've had in a very long time in the CAA. And they came out, and we didn't play perfect, but, to go on the road and to beat someone by 20 points, that's a really good accomplishment. So I thought we played well again. It was the usual cast of characters. Muff Mickens did a fantastic job of running the show. Precious shot the ball well again, scored 20 points, and Lady was dominant inside. And, and so I just kind of want to give them the CAA Players of the Week, in my opinion. I don't know how you have those kind of numbers that they had. I would love to know the criteria for giving out that award, but all 3 of those kids were definitely deserving of something. But they'll get a big pat on the back from their coach.
When the conference schedule began, you were shifting your focus a little bit to how the Dukes were playing defensively. How have things progressed from your standpoint defensively?
Well, I mean, we're never going to shut anyone out, and so sometimes until we do that, that's when I'm still going to be looking and searching. We had a few mental breakdowns that I thought that we could have corrected, but at the same time, you have to understand that College of Charleston, William and Mary, they practice their plays, so they're going to be able to execute. Sometimes we just don't want them to execute a lot of the times, and that's what we did. The kids are going out, and we're playing different lineups, different rotations. They're playing for each other, and to go out, and I think we held William and Mary to 50 points, what it was, and then College of Charleston 53 points. That's pretty good. And I'm satisfied with where we are. I think we can continue to get better, but our defense is much better now in the month of January than it was in December, than it was in November, and I think we're on the right path. And I think we'll continue to get better. There is a focus on it. And the kids are taking more pride in the defensive end. And, we've always said that our defensive end is going to generate our offense. And we do a really good job of protecting the paint, rebounding the ball cleanly, and then getting out on the fast break. And the kids are starting to perfect that whole situation.
You're also showing the capability of shifting gears in a game with your personnel. And what I mean by that is your rotation now seems to be, you're very comfortable with the rotation and getting very good quality minutes off the bench from quite a number of players.
I think the biggest difference in that comfort level is the fact that we're staying out of foul trouble. And when we're out of foul trouble, it enables me to play the lineups that I want to play, and not lineups that I'm forced to play. And therefore, I can make sure that everyone's fresh. They come out and they get a good amount of minutes, and not extended minutes that for some kids, and they go out and they're fresher. And so that's been the big difference. And we have a good 8 or 9 man rotation. And they're playing well. They're well. I mean, we have kids who are coming off the bench. Ashley Perez has been a really big spark for us off the bench. But so has Haley Barron. Haley Barron's really given us the option. She's coming in, and I say this a lot, what she may lack in athleticism, she makes up in basketball IQ. And knowing where you should be is half the battle, and she's doing a phenomenal job. We just watched film, and, she's some of the kids we think that are really good defensively because of their athletic prowess. She's doing just as good a job because she knows where to be, and she's a great team defender. And if she can stretch the defense by hitting a couple of three-pointers, which she's been doing. And another thing I'm very proud of her and very excited about is her calmness. She brings a calmness to the court. She understands. She's a great connector. She's running the point for us, and she's getting the ball where it needs to get to. When she has an open shot, she's knocking it down. So that's just another weapon that we have. And it was interesting. I was looking at our notes for this past week, and she scored more than Toya did this week. So it just goes to show you she's quietly becoming a weapon for us. And so our bench is starting to play very well along with the starters, and that gives us an extra oomph.
If you're in a game that you're not having to worry about fouls or the way that you want to rotate players in and out, what is your game plan with the use of Muff Mickens on the floor in terms of her minutes being played? When is a good time for her to take a breather?
Well, she actually got a long breather against College of Charleston, probably the longest of the year, take out any kind of foul trouble that she's had, because we had a good flow. And a lot of it is Haley Barron's emergence. We shifted Haley over to the backup point guard position, and even when College of Charleston was pressing us, she did a really good job of handling the press. And she's handling it in her own way. She's not Muff. She's going to blaze through a press and beat it and pass the ball out to Precious for a three. But she gets through it with passes, and then she gives us a different element on the offensive end when people are playing a zone where most people want to stay off of Muff and guard against the penetration. They have to really go out on her because she's a shooter, and now she's a good passer and she can get the ball inside, so it really stretches the zone for us. So we have so many different ways that we can beat you, and she adds an element for us, and it gives us something to look forward to as we hit into February.
One more question about Barron. In the preseason, you were shaking your head a lot. We were watching her shoot three-pointers that were barely hitting the backboard. I mean, it looked like she was totally above her. The game was too much over her head. When did things start to click for her? When did you feel like, okay, she's going to settle in and be more than what maybe we anticipated?
Well, it's just been her work ethic. We recruited her, and there were a lot of people who questioned whether or not she could play for us just because she's not Precious Hall, she's not Muff Mickens. But we knew there was definitely a place for her. She has a gift. She can shoot the basketball. Although in the beginning of the season we didn't know if that was a gift or not. She wasn't really shooting the ball that well. But what really got her on the floor was the fact that she knew where to be on the defensive end. She wasn't turning the basketball over. She hustled. She played hard. And when you do those little things, it allows you to stay on the floor to be able to get to the big things, which is shooting the basketball for us. But I have tons of confidence in her. Her minutes are going up tremendously. She allows us to play smaller and faster. What I mean by that is, sometimes we can go with Dee Griffin and we're going to be bigger, or I can substitute Haley for the same position. Like a lot of times I can substitute Dee in for Toya, and we're going to be big. Or I can substitute Haley in for Toya, and we can be small because it bumps Guathme down to the small forward or power forward. And so she just gives us another element. And it's taken a little bit of time, but she's earned that right. She's earned my trust. And therefore, she's playing extremely well. So I love the element that she gives us because it just stretches the defense. You can't double team Precious because you're giving her wide open threes. That's probably a headache for the other team. And you can't double team Lady because if she's kicking it out to Haley shooting wide open threes, it gives us a great element.
We're at O'Neill's Grill for our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon, this time on a Tuesday. So we're now talking with JMU women's basketball coach Kenny Brooks. We'll turn it over to other members of the media here on this Tuesday afternoon.
Coach, how would you describe how well your team is playing mentally, especially when you see a team that is still motivated despite being up by like 20 or 30 after the half against William and Mary?
Well, they're coming out, they're finding motivational things to get them going. And their goal is they want to be the best they can possibly be. They understand that we're in the midst of something that could be very special, and they're playing for that. They're not just playing the scoreboard. Mentally, this group is becoming tougher and tougher and understanding the task at hand. And I love their progression. I love what they're doing. I love how they're handling the whole situation. They're not bored, And I think when you're on the heels of a season that was 29-6, in which everyone celebrated, and you lose the player of the year and the defensive player of the year. Conventional wisdom says that you probably are not going to be as good the next year. But these kids are taking that chip and they're motivating themselves, and they want to be better. They want to be better than last year's team, which you should be. And they're taking it to heart, and I love the way that they go out and that they're approaching every day. And it hasn't always been like that, but I'm watching them mature right in front of my eyes to understand what they have to do and how they have to do it.
During that stretch where you guys were playing, 4 games in 8 days, you were mentioning how much rest you needed Toya to have. Now that you guys are in kind of a stretch where you don't play till Friday, then you don't play a week now, what's the outlook for her? What do you see more of her contributing as we get to the February part of the season? Well,
Toya's been up and down a little bit from her health standpoint, and rightfully so. The fact that she's out there is tremendous, and she's given us a ton. But this is going to be great for her. We're going to rest her. I'm not worried about her conditioning. I'm more concerned about her health and her knees. And this 1 game and 11-day stretch is going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic for a lot of people. Ladies taking a pounding. Precious probably could use a little bit of rest. Muff can use a little bit of rest. The coaches could use some rest. So we're going to use this opportunity as a break physically, but also mentally. I think this weekend we'll have a couple days where, women's basketball, our schedule, we never get a day off on the weekend once we hit January. And so we're going to take this opportunity. The kids will be able to be, normal, have a regular weekend, and then we'll get back at it again on Monday in preparation for, the games that we have. And it comes at a great time because right after this break, we have a treacherous schedule. We go to Hofstra, I think it is, and then we come back and we play at Drexel. We come home and then we go back up to Towson, 3 games in a row on the road. So, we're going to utilize this time to rest and get recharged, and hopefully it gives us, it puts us in a great mindset as we head into February.
Coach, you talked about how they find motivation during a game. What about during practice when you're trying to get better? How do you as a coaching staff motivate them, and how do the players themselves find motivation during practice?
We find it all the time. Their motivation is they hate getting on the line to run. So they'll do whatever they have to do to make sure they don't have to do that. But it's a group that you can see the light bulb going off with. They understand what they have to do, and and we focus on the little things. Where sometimes they think that I'm a little bit crazy because I'm focused on something that they might think is minuscule. That they'll come out, they understand that it is a part of the big picture, and we harp on the little things. Even in a 20-point win, we're talking about some of the things that we didn't do that could lead to disaster some other time. And so we're constantly, on them, watching them, not letting their guard down, and they've bought into it. And you have to have a special group that buys into that because mentally it can be draining. Mentally it can be draining if every day you have to go out and you have to, perform at a high level and, really focus on the little things. It's just human nature to let your guard down and some days not want to go out there and practice as hard. And this time of the year, I'll tell them before practice starts, do you want short and sweet or do you want long and sweet? We're going to get to sweet. It just figures if it's going to be short or is it going to be long. And so they'll focus in and we'll get it and get what we have to do and we'll get out of there.
Against William and Mary, you were 12 of 21 from the arc, 4 players with at least 2 3-pointers. What was the key to that? Was it their defense? Was it your ball movement? How did that work? Because obviously you were really on that night.
Well, we're capable of doing that. So it wasn't an anomaly. It wasn't this situation that just happened and, we need to celebrate it. I think our kids are definitely capable. This is probably top to bottom, the best three-point shooting team that I have. I think you look at our roster, and I would say 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 kids have hit a three. You know, albeit Dee Dee Griffin's was in desperation, and I think Destiny Jones hit hers in desperation. But I watched them in practice, and they make those shots. You know, Toya Jiggets has made one. They all can make those threes. And on a given night, you know, Jazz Gwathmey is capable of making 3 or 4. You know, Haley Barron is capable of making 3 or 4. Precious obviously has proven she's capable of making 6 or 7. And even Ashley Perez can make 3 or 4 in a game. So, you know, it's going to be nice where we're going to be shooting like that, you know, and so, but we don't have to rely on it, and that's the reason why we don't always shoot like that, because we have Lady Okafor inside, and then we also have Toya Jiggets inside. So we're just a balanced team. We're a balanced team that we can beat you in a lot of different ways. That's why it doesn't really matter if we don't prefer if someone plays us man or zone. We feel like we have the capabilities of attacking it either way.
One sort of off-the-court question for you. I think any coach of any sport can kind of look in awe of what Coach K was able to do. Obviously, you're approaching 300, but you know, Coach K was talking about how he's always learning and learning new techniques. How are you still learning on this job, even as you approach, you know, 300 here? You
know, it's funny. We were talking about this yesterday. Kurt and I, we were, and Dave, we were talking about just the evolution of basketball and kids today. And I think and I listened to Coach K today on Mike and Mike. And he was talking about, you know, how he's evolved. And one of his biggest joys in coaching is not just the X's and O's, but it's evolving to today's kid. You know, whether it was 20 years ago, whether it was 10 years ago, whether it's today. And I think that's the biggest thing that you have to do. If you're old and you're stuck in your ways, that's all you are, is a grumpy coach. And you're not going to be able to relate to the kids as well today. And having those relationships are as big as you know, your X's and O's capabilities. And I think, you know, my situation, I'm a much different coach today than I was 13 years ago when I started. You know, some of the things that I did to, you know, my teams 13 years ago, if they came back and watched their practice today, they would probably call me soft. You know, I call it evolving. But you have to, because, you know, we were talking about it, and you know, like Precious, as good as she is, you know, she's best player in the league. You know, she probably does 6 or 7 things a game that I'm wondering, you know, what was that? You know, and then I have to try to figure out, you know, am I going to try to correct her, or do we move on? And it's just different. It's just different. But I think, you know, one of the things that he said, you know, is so true. You just have to evolve. You have to evolve to today's kid. And you don't have to sell yourself short. You have to continue to correct them, but you have to correct them in a way that you're still able to motivate them, because if you're just grumpy, if I coached them the way that I was coached, I wouldn't have a team today. You know, they would all be gone. You know, and so you just have to learn how to coach these kids, and you have to learn how to get the most out of them without sacrificing integrity or your morals and what you're trying to do.
I figured I'd write something on Precious this week. Why don't you go back in your thought process and think about when you were recruiting her? I mean, 20 points per game, the go-to scorer. Is that kind of the vision you had for her as a player?
Yeah, we Precious played for one of the highest profiled AAU programs in the country. If you're familiar with the AAU programs, they're on the EYBL circuit. That's just for the Nike, the biggest programs. And she didn't start for that program, but she always finished the game. And we would always watch her and her grit, you know, her toughness. We knew that she was going to be special. And for us, it was great because she was hidden, so to speak. She had a couple teammates who I think one went to Baylor and one went to, you know, they've gone to high-profile programs. But at the end of the game, she was the one that they entrusted with the basketball. You know, she was the one that was going to take the shot at the end of the game. She was the one that was making the big play, but she was kind of hidden because she was overshadowed because she had some high-profile kids on her team. We went to her home. I think, you know, the relationship that she had with me, the relationship she had with Coach O'Regan, outshined the ones that she had with local teams like Central Florida. Charlotte was even closer. And when we got her, we knew we had something special. I didn't know how special until she got here, you know, and, you know, I watched her in a more in-depth situation where she's shooting the basketball. I knew she could become a really good shooter. And when her freshman year, she couldn't really crack the lineup because we had so many guards. And, you know, not luckily, but, you know, Nikki Newman went down, and then we thrusted her into the starting lineup, and I think she's been there for 80-some straight games since. But the biggest thing that impresses me about Precious is she understands history. You know, she understands history of our program, and she knows that she came in here and she had to learn. And it wasn't just going to be a situation where she was going to shine right away. She knew she was going to learn from Tariq Hislop. She knew she was going to learn from Kirby Burkholder, and she knew that she was waiting her time. And watching the way she played last year to the way she's playing this year, you can tell she understands, okay, last year was Kirby's team, you know, and she was going to be a main cog to that, but she knew this year was going to be her team. And that's exactly the way she's played, and she's understood that. You know, she didn't understand it, and she wanted to try to go out and for it to be her team last year. It could have caused some dissension, but she understood the balance of what we need to do, and that's what I really appreciate about her. And now she knows it's her team, and she's leading the team in her way, and scoring 20 points a game. It doesn't surprise me. You know, she's a very exciting, electric player, and she can go off for 30 or 40 points in a game. But I really like the way she's evolving and the way she's progressing.
You talk about leadership with her. She strikes me as kind of a soft-spoken, quieter kid. Is that more lead by example in her case?
She's not soft-spoken. Sometimes we have to tone her down. She's so intense. She's so intense. And one of the things she's working on is leading in a positive way. She can say something and it has really good meaning, but sometimes it's like really comes at you really hard because she's so intense. But she's not soft-spoken. She's soft-spoken with you guys. She's not soft-spoken in the locker room. She's not soft-spoken on the court. But she's definitely learning how to translate that into a very positive manner. But she's doing a really good job. And one of the things that she does do, she never sits out a play. She never sits out a sprint. She always is at the front. She's a very tough kid. You know, if she falls down, I look at her, and I'm assuming 99% of the time she's going to get right back up. But she's one of the toughest kids that I've had, mentally and physically.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the production. It's been great this season. She's still got another year left. I mean, what ways can she grow her game and get even better?
One of the things that we're harping on her is I was leaving to come over here. She was in the office with one of the assistant coaches watching film. She can get better. I think she's a much better defensive player than she portrays. And I think a lot of that has to do with she plays extensive minutes. But when she locks in, like against Charleston, the kid she was guarding hit a couple of shots on her and had a couple things to say to her about it. And I really egged it on a little bit to motivate Precious. And I told her, I said, Precious, she's making shots on you, and she's telling you about it. And from that point on, the kid didn't score again. You know, and it's because when she wants to do it, she's very good. She's very good. She has the strongest hands of anyone that I've ever coached. I mean, if she gets around the basketball, she's going to take it from you. And that's just the way she is. But she loses a little bit of focus on the defensive end. But when she's focused, she's very good. I think she could be like a defensive player of the year caliber kind of kid if she wanted to be. I just think she has a little bit more attention on the offensive end, which is not bad for us because she's averaging 20 plus a game. But I think one thing that she probably could improve on is her defense.
Sure. That's all I got for you.
All right.
Thanks.
Coach, fans have not seen the Phoenix of Elon who come to town for your opponent on Friday night. It'll be the second time that you'll play them. Give us a little scouting report, what you see in the Phoenix.
Very talented. As much talent in the league since the league is wide open. I mean, they're extremely talented. They have some good players. They have some good players, and they're young. I think they're going to be good for a long time to come. Charlotte Smith formerly played at UNC, and she's got some talented kids. They come out and they're very physical. The game we played down at their place was a little physical, so I look forward to a wide open game up and down, so to speak, and it's going to be a physical basketball game. So we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a battle. I think they are 4-3 or 5-3 in the conference, something like that. So that they're definitely a good opponent and one that's going to be at the top of the league. So it's going to be a very good basketball game.
All right, that's the Dukes and the Phoenix of Elon, the only home game this week. And we'll be back again next Monday for more of our Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU women's basketball coach Kenny Brooks. Coach, thank you for joining us. Good luck against the Phoenix.
All right, thanks, guys.